My name is Marilyn. I live in Ward 3. These are urban problems. We're an urban city and not a farm community. We have crime. It crept up. I have a cousin who's 82, whose bag was taken. She was shaken. I have neighbors who were robbed by someone who crawled in the window at 3 in the morning and took things and left. They weren't harmed. They were shaken. We have problems like opioids in this city. Surprise. We have safety in the street problems. We have gang control in the city that needs to be looked at.
Is there a specific question you have that you want
Yes,
to
who's going to think about that? Sam Zuri is already thinking of education. That's what he was elected for. We have other problems as well. Who's going to look at those?
So problems such as crime and looking at those. Start with David.
It does come down, like I said earlier, the education, but I do know what you mean because a few years back, while I was actually in my house, in my room, somebody did break into my house and they did rob us while I was actually in my house. So I do know the feeling, and I actually got more nervous then than I was now. And you can tell right now I can't get my words out, but I 100% know the feeling because it was a violation of me personally, and I've known people. My ex-girlfriend, her cousin was murdered in Providence, and I knew Joseph Hector, who was murdered on Camp Street. But it does come down to education and getting everybody together on a key page. One of the things that I've actually been working on, I'm trying to figure out the details. I haven't really made too much public about it, is bringing our community together, to bring businesses together, to actually donate to a community watch program, to actually put people in cars out there, just driving around our streets, just helping the police officers, not getting involved with anybody, but just being an extra set of eyes and ears for our police officers where they can't be all the time, and just somebody out there looking out for each other. And as a community, we do need to look out for each other and pay attention to our surroundings, and does this person belong here or not? And that's something we need to address, and hopefully that's something I would be able to address if I was your city council. Thank you.
Mark?
I mean, certainly as I've been, I imagine everyone else here up on the stages have the same experience. As I've been going around the neighborhood talking to people, the crime is an issue that people have brought up a lot in all parts of the neighborhood. I mean, crime is obviously a big issue with a lot of causes to it. As we kind of bring it down to the level of our own neighborhood here, the police substation on Camp Street is closed. We should try and get it open. That would seem like something concrete that we can do. I think somebody had mentioned at the last community forum there was mold in the building and that was why it was closed. That's fixable and shouldn't be that expensive to do. Certainly we need more and better funded and more consistently funded youth programs in the neighborhood and around the city as well, particularly in the summer and after school. You know, crime is also an issue of poverty and lack of living wage jobs, so it connects to many other things in that regard as well. To me, it also connects to there are too many guns in America, in Providence and in Ward 3. I think that's something that has to be addressed as well. I mean, I'm about as strong in favor of gun control as a person could get, I think. I actually think the enactment of the CSA, the Community Safety Act, is a positive step towards what I hope will be better, more responsive, more just, more fair community policing. That's the goal, that's the hope. If I'm elected to the city council, I'm going to do my best to try and see if it functions, to make it function that way and to be adequately funded and supervised as well.
All right, Dan?
Well, I would start off by saying, obviously the big picture with regard to addressing the issues of violence in our community is to provide opportunity for people and to give people some hope and get them invested into our community. As a city council person, I believe what we can do on a local level with regard to doing this is obviously doing what we can to create opportunities for people through whatever kind of development or whatever interface with the community that we're able to accomplish. But there's actually a more realistic thing that the next city council person is going to be able to do, which is the police department should be staffed at almost 500 officers. It's down to 390. There is currently a class at the academy, and at least that class is greatly diverse and has a diversity that more closely reflects the neighborhoods of the city, which is a welcome change. The little over 100 police officers that should be added in a diverse amount, very reflective of the communities that they serve, and that is going to be much better with regard to relations with regard to the community. Opening those police centers and the substations, it's not just ours on Camp Street. I don't think that very many of them are staffed, and if they are, they're literally places for police officers to park, change, and then leave in their cruiser and go about the community. I would hope that when we get a full complement of officers into the police department, we'd be able to put police back out on the street, get them to know the people in their communities, get them to become an integral part of the neighborhood, and get them to work with not only with especially the children, but with everybody in the community so that we feel as if they belong to our community and that there's not this separation between them.
And Nira.
You are absolutely right. This is an urban community. Just about 2 weeks ago, there was a shooting at next to Billy Taylor Park on Camp and Locust. And at the time of the shooting, my son had actually left the house to go meet friends to play basketball at the JCC or Nathan Bishop. I've had friends who've gotten their house broken into. My purse was stolen out of my car on Hope Street. So I think what's important is that we are involved in the community and understand the community that we're serving. Before I even decided to run for city council, I decided when I was going to move to Ward 3 and live in Ward 3, that I needed to understand the community that I live in. I needed to know who my neighbors are. I needed to know the issues that impact people. And so I know that I've been to the Hectors, I've spoken to them. I spoke to the person who cleaned up the blood from the young man who was shot in the head back in the fall. And so the only way that you could address these issues is to know the community that you're serving. And so unless you're talking to people and you're able to cross over these invisible lines, then there's no way that you can resolve these issues. And yes, the police substation needs to be open. Someone on the Community Alliance already started doing the work to contact them to find out how can we get the police officers here. When the shooting took place 2 weeks ago, there was a chain of texts that went on. One member of the community texts me, I text someone else, I text our state rep. We started communicating with one another. But the only way we can address these issues is to know your neighbor, to not be afraid to talk to people and go into the communities. There's a major issue on Pleasant Street that I talked to a resident who lives there. Someone told me someone got shot feet away from her doorstep. So if you're not talking to these people or members of our community, you won't know. Thank you.
Dan actually had a concrete thing he said he wanted. I'm curious for the other three to just weigh in 30 seconds each, no more than that. Do you agree with him to bring the police staffing back up from the roughly 390 currently to about 500, Nirva and then the other two?
Well, we definitely need more police forces on the streets. However, if you bring the police into the community, the police officers need to know the community that they're serving. So there needs to be some sort of cultural competency training. The CSA has been passed. That is wonderful. But we need to figure out how to properly implement it and understand the set of protocols to make sure that they are effectively working with the community to address the issues, the violence, or whatever it may be, that is impacting the community.
David, on the question of bringing the police force higher again.
I do 100% agree that we need to bring more police officers in. One major problem, which I didn't agree with years ago, was that we hire from outside the city of Providence. the people that we ask to protect and serve us don't even live in our community anymore, and they're not part of our community. I believe that we should be offering incentives to the current Providence police officers and others to live in our city and within our neighborhoods.
And Mark?
I would certainly agree with trying to bring the police force up to full capacity as well. I mean, as Nirva said, just adding more police doesn't necessarily provide more security, and I think we've seen all around the country over the last couple of years that often it does the opposite, depending on who the police officers are and what neighborhood they're in. So I think it is vitally important for the police to be diverse in a way that reflects the city, for them to be accountable, and also for them to receive, for them to become familiar with the neighborhood and receive adequate training.
And Dan will give you 30 seconds to, if you have a final comment.
My final comment will be just to mirror what I said with regard to these classes that we're going to be putting through the police academy. It needs to reflect the community that we're going to serve. It needs to be a diverse group of people brought into this academy. The latest academy has Asians, Hispanics, Black people, and some white people. I do think the Community Safety Act is a great start at rebuilding a relationship between the community and the police department. They can't protect and they can't serve if they do not have the faith of the people.
Can I just respond to
Yeah,
Mark?
very briefly.
Very briefly, thank you. So, you're absolutely right. So when I lived in Providence, if you worked in the city, if you had to live in the city, and it's important, but we're not going to get a new diverse police force overnight. That's why it's important to have cultural competency training, because if and there's a process. If you have a criminal record, it's really hard to become a police officer or to hold these positions. So if we can't target the right people, we need to make sure the people that are in place can serve the community, and they need to get engaged and involved.
Do you want 15 seconds, Mark?
No, I completely agree with
Okay.
that.